Welcome to the Wreck Silence Review Show. It's the final week of November, and that means we have one Thanksgiving animated special left to review. Today we'll be reviewing The Thanksgiving That Almost Wasn't, an animated special from 1972, which aired on November 21st, from legendary studio Hanna-Barbera. I remember seeing this 2 or 3 times as a little kid in the late 90s on Cartoon Network, but just like the Garfield Thanksgiving special, I haven't seen it in over 2 decades, so I'm curious to see what this is like. So let's dive into our final animated Thanksgiving review for the month, The Thanksgiving That Almost Wasn't. Our story begins in the then contemporary time of the early 1970s. We see a brother and sister named Jimmy and Janie Cook are playing on the swing set outside of their home when their mother Mary calls them inside to eat Thanksgiving dinner. We then see a father squirrel with his son watching the family through the window. The father proceeds to tell the son about Thanksgiving and how it never would have existed without their great ancestor Jeremy Squirrel. Okay, so here we go. The father squirrel continues with the story of the Mayflower's voyage in 1620 over a 65-day period to find America. Once they finally arrived in December, they struggled through a harsh winter with few resources at their disposal, eventually losing over half of their numbers by the season's end. But by the break of spring, the Pilgrims were offered assistance by the Native Americans who helped them build homes and grow a bountiful harvest of food for what became the first Thanksgiving. We then cut the Pilgrim boy Johnny Cook, who is hunting for turkeys, when he runs into a Native American boy named Little Bear. As they start to argue, Jeremy Squirrel shows up and tells them that they would be better off as friends than enemies. As we see the Pilgrims and the natives working together to prepare the feast, we're treated to our first of 3 songs. The first one is called The Dinner of the First Thanksgiving Day, which is actually really catchy. The 2 boys chase some timber wolves into the woods and end up getting lost. They try to find their way back, and while engaging in some tomfoolery, they almost cause Jeremy Squirrel to drown. He lectures them, and they continue to try and find their way back, as we're introduced to our second song, Let's Take the Shortest Road Home, which is even more of an earworm than the first song. You might catch yourself whistling it after the first few seconds, I'm telling you. Jeremy Squirrel decides to set off on his own to find a settlement, but little does he know that danger lurks not too far behind, as the timber wolf from before is on the prowl. Meanwhile, the boys continue to play around with the animals in the forest until they come upon the wolf, who begins to chase them. Elsewhere, the adult Pilgrims and Indians have been searching for the boys for the last few hours with no clue in sight of their possible location. The animals notice the wolf chasing the boys, and the little rabbit, who I'm pretty sure is the same voice as Scrappy from Scooby-Doo, rallies the other animals to lend an assist. But when the wolf manages to corner the boys, it's Jeremy Squirrel to the rescue, who bites the shit out of his fucking tail. Turning his attention to the squirrel, he chases him until he gets trapped in the log and is sent flying down the hill. They eventually find their way back home. We engage in our final song, which is not nearly as good as the first 2, and the rest, as they say, is history. No, that's literally what they say. The father squirrel says that to his son, and the fucking story ends. The end. So, according to this special, Thanksgiving would have ceased to exist if not for the heroic actions of Jeremy the Squirrel to save a young Pilgrim and Indian boy from a deadly wolf attack and lead them back to their settlement. Even for a children's special, that's quite a historical leap with more than a few creative liberties. But at the end of the day, this was produced by fucking Hanna-Barbera. It's intended for very small children and should be seen by very small children. And for that audience, it's perfectly suitable. Don't expect your child to get a history lesson from this shit, but at the very least, it has 2 really good, delightful songs and will keep them busy for 30 minutes. I'd like to take the time to thank my editor for all his hard work, and to thank you all for your time as well. I sincerely appreciate it. I hope you all enjoyed this month's set of animated Thanksgiving specials, and with this being the last one, we can now move into the greatest time of the year, Christmas. So join me next week as we review the Rankin Bass Christmas films. I love the Rankin Bass films. I mean, I love Christmas in general, but I really love the Rankin Bass Christmas films, so I'm really excited to get this project started. So, join me next week. Until then, take care, be safe, and treat each other kindly. Goodbye, everyone.